right, so protein digestion begins in the stomach. So nothing's happening yet in the mouth. And if, in this case, if we're referring back to our hamburger, now we're talking about the actual beef patty. So this is the protein in the burger. So it travels through the mouth into your stomach. Now your stomach has a few secretions that it produces that are important that are not enzymes. Okay, these secretions from your stomach, one is mucus, the other is hydrochloric acid, HCl. Okay, these are not enzymes, but we need them. Mucus protects your stomach. Okay, HCl activates pepsin, which is an enzyme that we'll talk about in a second. So your stomach has a very, very, very low pH. So the pH is maybe between 1 and 2. It's extremely acidic, which normally something this acidic would be very corrosive to human tissue, right? So we produce this mucus so that it can protect your stomach from basically getting dissolved by the acid that it's producing. So it's got this thick layer of mucus that protects it. That way the hydrochloric acid can do its job without harming you. Okay, so the first thing that we get secreted, the first enzyme that actually begins to break down the protein from the stomach, we secrete this thing called pepsinogen. Okay, pepsinogen is an enzyme. It's one of the weird ones that doesn't end with ASE. And that's because when it first gets secreted, it's not active yet. So pepsinogen plus that acid, HCl, gives us pepsin. Okay, now pepsin is an active enzyme that can start to break down proteins. Okay, pepsin has that name because it breaks down peptide bonds, right? Peptide bonds are those bonds between amino acids that hold a protein together. Pepsin begins to break those down. Pepsin prefers, so if you look at, there's a graph on page 255, okay, it's figure 3. Figure 3 compares pepsin versus another enzyme, trypsin, and shows their ideal pH range. So when we talked about enzymes, we talked about temperature range, pH range, substrate concentration, various other things that affect their functioning. Pepsin only functions in a really low pH. So anywhere outside the stomach, pepsin doesn't work. Okay, then you have these, you've got these little things, they're muscles, but they're round muscles. They're called sphincters, and you have 3 of them in your body. And basically what they do is separate different parts of your digestive tract. So you've got one here between your esophagus and stomach, and you've got another one here that separates the stomach from the small intestine. So what happens is when this opens and food passes through, some of that acid is going to go with it as well, right? So your small intestine secretes this thing called bicarbonate. So we produce bicarbonate, which is a basic substance. So this lowers the pH. So the pH down here in your small intestine is about 8, which is good because the other enzyme that we have only functions in basic environments. Okay, so this bicarbonate, it neutralizes any acid that escapes from your stomach. That way it's not going to eat away at your small intestine, right? So as soon as it escapes from here and enters the small intestine, the bicarbonate will neutralize that. Okay, then we have another enzyme that's released in your small intestine. Trypsinogen, which again is inactive. So trypsinogen plus bicarbonate, so plus a base, give us trypsin. Okay, this trypsinogen is produced along with many other enzymes. It's produced in the pancreas. So the pancreas makes this enzyme and then secretes it through the small intestine. There is one more protein digesting enzyme that actually just gets secreted directly from the walls of your small intestine. So it's not produced in the pancreas, it just comes directly from the small intestine. And this is called erypsin. And it continues to break those bonds between amino acids until eventually our huge three-dimensional protein is just a whole bunch of small individual amino acids. And those are now small enough that we can actually absorb them through the small intestine.